see here is the schedule that I have planned to follow. I have divided this presentation in 4 segments. So I will begin with a brief explanation of why we founded Velove in the first place, which was climate crisis awareness. So I will spend a couple of minutes on that one. Then I will go through the what has happened since we started nearly 10 years ago, and where we are today with the solution that we are offering today. And finally, I will spend some time on the sustainability aspects of the delivery solution that we are offering and comparing it with competing methods of delivery. So this is called the morning boost, and the first image that I'm going to show is maybe not really that much boost when you look at it first. It's more panic that you feel, but there is now today, or actually a news item from yesterday that makes this a little bit more hopeful. This graph may look a little bit difficult first, but it's really not that complicated. For those of you that hasn't seen it, I will just briefly explain what it is. So you have this curve here, which is simply the world's annual CO2 emissions since 1980 to today, 2020, the last 40 years. So we have a steady and quite rapid increase in CO2 emissions. And this line here, that is like a very, very steep downhill slope. It's more than black for sure. This is what we need to, the speed of mitigation that we need to do to have a 66% chance of staying below the 1.5 degree target. So it's an incredible challenge we have if we're going to meet the 1.5 degree target, almost impossible. And if we should manage to stay at the same levels that we are today, then in 8 years, then it will be truly impossible to meet to have a 66% chance to meet the 1.5 degree target, because then all of the CO2 budget is consumed, and this budget is calculated by the IPCC, so it's not any made up numbers. And I would just like to see immediately, so this is actually the first section of this presentation. It's this slide only. This is the reason why we started Velove, because I realized this 10 years ago when we were around here. I realized that just switching to electric drivetrains in all the world's vehicle fleet will not be enough, as we have this extreme challenge, and as producing vehicles still emit CO2, as the electricity mix will not be clean in decades to come. So it just doesn't add up to, it's not simply not enough just to electrify the fleet. We need much more drastic changes than this. And I would just like to see if anyone would like to comment what they feel when they see this graph. And you can raise your hand or just open the mic if you prefer. No comment on that one? Come on, let's have some interaction.
I would say that, hi, good morning.
Hello, Sami.
Hi, I would say that this graph gives me a big drive for change.
Yeah.
Yeah, finding solutions in all different sectors regarding CO2 emissions and CO2 equivalents.
You don't feel that you're out of hope seeing it as the challenge is so huge and acute?
Yeah, sure. Of course, I feel it feels pretty hopeless to see this graph, but you can't lose hope. That's the last thing I will lose as a human being.
Yeah, good to hear. It will, yeah, it's just impossible. But actually yesterday I got some of my hope back because I think most of you heard that the news that the planned expansion of the Preem refinery, or diesel, jet fuel, gasoline refinery in Sweden, they withdrew their application to do this huge expansion, and that actually gives me some hope. So if we do everything we can now to mitigate the emissions and actually come up with some new technology to draw CO2 out of the atmosphere as well, maybe we have a chance to actually at least reduce the negative effects a bit. So that actually gives me a bit of hope. Right, but anyway, this is the reason why we started Velove, because we wanted to make a difference. We saw that only electrifying will not be enough. We need to change the transport sector more. Our transport behavior, the vehicles we travel must be super efficient. We can't drive around with 100 kilos using 2-ton vehicles. That's not the way you handle a crisis like this. So thank you, Samir, for the interaction. Now comes the next section, and I will quickly go through the history of Velove, some of the main milestones that we've been through, and after that I will present where we are today. So when I realized that we have this super challenge, Velove actually started with mobility in mind, not last mile delivery, but mobility to move people short distance, mainly in the cities. And this type of vehicle attracted my interest because it's a 3-wheel bike, and bikes are very energy and resource efficient. We know that, but still we have lots of people going very short distances in the city by car. 70 to 80% of all car trips in urban areas are shorter than 3 to 4 kilometers. So there's a huge potential to switch to bikes, but still people are going by car. And I was thinking maybe that this one, where you need very little muscle input to go fast, and where you also have a weather protection, this could help to move people from cars to bikes. So that was the idea when I started this discussion thread in the discussion forum Eco Profile, which I've actually programmed myself many years ago. So this drew huge interest, and 300 posts later, we had come up with a theoretical model of a new type of vehicle, which is not what you see here, because most people said that this type of bike, it's too low, it will not work in city traffic, it will be dangerous when it's so low, even if it's fantastic. So in city traffic, I will not dare to ride this one. So we decided, okay, we need to have a higher vehicle. It needs to be as high as a car. So that's why we, in theory, ended up with it needs to have 4 wheels for the stability, so we can build it a bit higher, as high as a car. And 4 wheels also gives more cargo capacity, as this is a very important aspect of why you choose to go passenger, or you can have goods with you shopping, or 2 children to daycare and so on. So in theory, we came up with, okay, a new type of vehicle should have 4 wheels. So we started to do some concept sketches with the help of a vehicle design student, came up with something like this. And then we built the first prototype. Actually, my dad built the first prototype, and the first impression was that this is very comfortable. Even though this one is lacking suspension, it's still very comfortable, and the stability is just incredible. There's no way you can tip over with this bike. And then we built a second prototype, or actually my dad built that one again. And an important milestone here was that we realized the stability is so high, we actually don't need to get the cargo low down below the wheels. We can put the cargo on top of the wheels, just like trucks are designed. They put all the cargo on top of the wheels. And this means that we can have a really big cargo space. We maximize the cargo capacity while keeping the total width of the vehicle narrow. So this is a very important aspect of the bike we are now using, is that it actually fits on bike lanes. It's 86 centimeters wide, which is 4 centimeters less than the average family cargo trike, which you have probably seen running around in the city with a box with 2 kids in front. So these are 90 centimeters wide, while our high capacity cargo bike is less wide, so only 86. So this actually works on bike lanes without causing, of course it's in the way somehow, but it's the negative impact is as small as possible. And in our experience, this is actually, this is working. Let me just see. Okay. So we came further. We started producing a pre-series, and we got our first customer on board. So DHL Express were looking for a more high-capacity cargo bike. They had tried 2-wheel cargo bikes with success and wanting something with more capacity, but still agile enough. So they tried our bike and said, well, wow, this is agile enough, let's try it. And so they made a pilot starting in 2015 in the city of Almere, outside of Amsterdam in the Netherlands, which was successful and also gave a lot of media attention. But we still hadn't let go of the idea of mobility. So we were in another project where we could try the mobility, a prototype of the mobility version with this fabric cover onto it. Maybe not as beautiful as the concept sketches, but actually we did learn a lot from this. We also learned that we need to do more development on this one to make it ready for market. Quite a lot of development, but with the logistics version, this was more or less ready for market. So we decided, let's pause the mobility version for now and just go for the logistics version, because that's makes more sense from a business perspective to focus on the logistics first, and then we can return to the mobility sometime in the future when we have the capacity to develop this concept further. So in 2017, DHL Express launched a real solution, and this had even more media attention. I think one of the videos on Facebook now has 7 million views, so huge success here initially with them. And DHL Express has been our biggest customer to date now with these bikes in almost 20 countries around the globe. And I just have to mention this one also. Yeah, many things have happened during these years, but this one is a bit extra spectacular. There was a Swiss guy that called us and said, yeah, I would like to go by bike from Switzerland to China with my kids on a bike, and I would like to use your bike. And yeah, at that time we said, yeah, why not? But we don't have any time to build a bike for you. So you need to come here and build it, assemble it yourself. So he came with his kids to Sweden, Gothenburg, assembled the bike, took it home to Switzerland and fitted these solar panels onto it. And then he actually went to China. So he rode to Shanghai. It took almost a year. And that's a bit of proof, I think, of the durability and the comfort of this bike. And extra interesting was that the solar panel actually worked. And I think his record was that he drove 950 kilometers without plugging the bike in when he had a long stretch of good weather. And another milestone for us was when we won the first ever International Cargo Bike of the Year award, the first one ever. There has been the International Van of the Year award for decades, but handed out by Logistics magazine, but they decided now it's time for also to do it for cargo bikes, and we won it in competition with the other cargo bike makers out there. So we can with confidence say that we do have the best e-cargo bike in the world in the heavy category. So we've had, during a few years, collected a lot of known brands as customer. When you look at this does look very impressive, even for myself. It's quite amazing what we have achieved. But on the other hand, we started this company to really make a difference. The climate crisis is the driving force, and we can't really say that we have made a big difference so far, because most of these customers are not scaling. They are buying a few bikes to test, and then not much more happens. And this has been a bit frustrating for us, because we want to replace as many vans as possible out there, but we're not really replacing that many yet. And we've made an analysis of why is this, and just came up with that it's actually a little bit too difficult for all these customers that have been using vans for many decades. Everything is set up for the van, even organizational structures. Simple thing like you have most of these companies don't have their own employees driving in their owned vehicles, but they have service partners, which is small companies, and they lease vehicles. And for all these small service partner to do this switch, it's just that's a challenge. And you also need to have a terminal in the city center to hand over the goods, and yeah, that doesn't it requires quite a lot, and they also require a different type of drivers. They need to do recruitment and other type of training. So this is the story. So this is what has happened during these 9 years, and in the next section I'm going to go into what we're doing now, what we have started this year. But I wanted to just pause there for a second to see if there are any questions on this, on the history.
Yes, Johan, I have a question. Sara L here. I'm just curious about the name Velove. Is it combined with vehicle and love, or how did you come up with the name?
Yeah, it's actually it's Velo is from bike actually. It's not vehicle, but Velo. So come from bike, and love obviously it's love. So it's a combined bike love. That's the word. And actually, there's a little bit of a hint of a play with, as we are from Gothenburg, and there's another big vehicle producer in Gothenburg. So we also thought it was a little bit fun that it was a similar name to that other big player. Any other questions?
Yeah, hi, Samir again. I have a question about your market orientation. What would you say? What are your customer segments? Where do you want to scale up? These different customers are pretty different. Do you have any like specific strategy working towards scaling up a specific market?
Yeah, that's a highly relevant question, Samir, because this vehicle can be used for so many different applications. And as we have gone along these years, we have been open to anyone coming to us and requesting, yeah, we would like to buy a bike and use it for this. We would like to use it for that. And we have said, yeah, well, why not? Sure, let's do it. We can even make some small adaptations for you. So it's been used for field services, for food delivery, parcel delivery, yeah, even some taxi delivery used in on the countryside to transport paint and whatnot. I think that there are lots and lots of different applications. Just as a car or a van, it can be used for so many different things. We have been open to everything. But this is one of the things that we have realized, and this is maybe also the most common advice that you give to a startup, that you have to focus. You can't do everything at once and be good at everything. When you are a small company with limited resources, you have to focus and be good at one or a few things and do that really well and make an impact there, and then you can add other things. So we've actually, this comes in the next section. I will explain what we have narrowed down to now.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Well, you can, if you have something cooking, you can develop it and ask it at the end of the presentation. So, yeah, here we are, a lot of customers, but they're not really buying a lot of bikes. They're not replacing that many vans. So what can we do about it? So we said, okay, if it's difficult for them, let's make it easy for them. Let's do all the hard things. We do all the hard things, and they just make it as easy as possible for them. So this is now the complete solution for last mile delivery that we are offering, and actually we have narrowed it down even more in last mile delivery. Right now we are only doing home delivery to consumers. That's the only segment that we're focusing on. And for these e-commerce actors that are now our customers, we are offering them this complete solution. So still, they have access to the world's best e-cargo bike, but we also give them everything else. So we are setting up city hubs in the cities where we operate. So we are, since March, we're now live in Stockholm. And we will soon expand to our second and third city. So we rent some space and set up a city hub here, where the most important function is that our customers can come with their parcels, and we do a quick and easy handover of the goods in this city hub. And we also store the vehicles in these hubs. And we also provide riders, so we train and certify riders that are experts and highly motivated in using this type of solution for home deliveries. And we are also offering a containerized solution. So maybe you saw it in the earlier pictures, but the idea here is that our customers can pre-pack containers in their terminals, put these 1 cubic meter containers in a truck, and drive a lot of these containers into city hubs. Just drop the containers off, collect them on the bike, and go. So you don't need to touch the parcels once again, which costs money. And when you introduce risk also losing or mixing up the parcels. So we're trying to introduce containerization in last mile delivery and have similar benefits as the international shipping industry achieved when they introduced containerization in the 50s to 70s with like 90% productivity improvements. And of course, we also need the IT platform to tie everything together. And we are now live in Stockholm since March, and we can see that this new business model, this new value, this offer that we have for our customers is really attractive. It makes it very easy for them to use e-cargo bikes instead of having to deal with all of this themselves. We take care of all of it, and they still can have say that they are using e-bikes for last mile delivery. So this is really working, and it's great to see that we have learned. It's been difficulties along the way, and we've learned. We changed our business model, and now it looks like we have a really good product market fit. So that was that. That was the third segment. Let's see if we have any Any questions on that?
I have a few questions. Just some
sure.
hard facts about the bike. What's the capacity and the volume and the weight of the cargo? And what's the typical packages that's traveling with Velove?
Yeah, as you see on this picture, this is you see this one has 6 wheels, so we're having a semi-trailer for it. So we have these two versions of the bike, just a 4-wheeler, and then we can also attach this semi-trailer, which with the semi-trailer we are doubling the volume capacity, but not quite doubling the weight capacity. But we roughly the weight is limited by the total weight of the vehicle, but roughly you could say that we can carry 125 kilos with a 4-wheeler and 200 kilos with a 6-wheeler with a semi-trailer. And when it comes to the most common type of goods for home delivery, I would say the number one is actually pharmaceutical products. That's a very popular segment. I have my colleague Per on the call as well. Maybe I don't know if you're actually listening or not, Per, but yeah, what else than the pharmaceutical stuff?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, there are some very popular type of goods. I would say the number 2 goods which we don't transport is food deliveries. But we have chosen to really focus on e-commerce and home deliveries, and I see some other players focusing on the food segment. And when we get a lot of questions from them saying, "Can we buy your bike? Can you transport for us?" But for now, focus is everything, and we're really trying to nail down the most suitable parcel types for us, and that's pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, clothing, absolutely. Lots of medicines now during the pandemic. What else? Yeah, I think that's the most one. And also quite a lot of animal products, like animal food, pet food, pet products, pet pharmaceuticals, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Thanks, Per. The sound, I did hear what you said. It sounded a little bit like a tin can there. I don't know if you can do anything about it, but yeah, I did hear you anyway. So Samir, any more questions there?
Yeah, a few. Thank you for all the answers. I'm interested in the pictures for starters. When regarding like the Swedish weather, how are the what do you say, the driver is supposed to drive when it's bad weather?
Yeah, this is a common question, and I can just say that where we started out, it was like from 10 years ago, and then it was we can say that we started from the bike messenger scene, so using 2-wheel cargo bikes where there is absolutely no option to have any type of weather protection. You don't even see it as a possibility. So there were like zero requests, as this is just not feasible. And also the whole messenger, let's say, community or culture. I mean, you're biking because you like biking, and you're biking all year round, and it's just as simple as you would dress for the weather. It's just a matter of clothing. And I've been riding all this time. I've been riding a lot myself. We have also started a company in parallel in Gothenburg called Pling, where I've been riding all year round. And there are a few days every year when you have really, where you don't think that this was the best day. It's 2 degrees warm, it's windy, it's raining. Still, if you have really good clothing, you still keep dry, and you have good boots, so you stay warm on your feet. You have good Gore-Tex gloves, so it works. But of course, you're not loving it. But it's just a few days of the year that are really awful weather, even in Gothenburg. And we did develop this prototype weather protection and Pling that is driving all year round, or actually offered to use this weather protection, but no one wanted it. They said it's not really a problem. We just dress. We have rainproof gear. So and being a biker means that, I mean, you have all the social aspects of biking as well. First, you have the physical aspects that you see everything good, hear everything good, but then you have the social aspects as well. So if you start to enclose with a windscreen and stuff, then you can't have the same social interaction. It's hard to talk to people and hard to see people in the eye. And then you're starting to drive a vehicle rather than riding a bike. And then you lose a lot of the good things about riding a bike. So this is, I'm not ruling out that we'll have some kind of light or flexible weather protection in the future. But if you ask the people that are coming to us and wanting to ride, it's not on the top of the list to have a cabin, a heated cabin to sit in.
Thank you so much for that answer. I totally agree. There's no bad weather, only bad clothes. And as you said, like, it's important for the common people, the civilization to feel trusted in this kind of new transportation. And as you say, I think it's very good to see the driver and feel like the driver seeing you, not being behind some kind of chassis, or what do you say?
Yeah.
Just one more quick question. What's the top speed of the bicycle, and what's the capacity of the battery?
So this is an e-bike. In all Europe, we can use it just like you use any e-bike. So that means also when it comes to the electric assist, it will assist you up to 25 kilometers per hour. Then you can ride it faster than that, but you really don't if it's not a downhill. So I'd say the usual speed that we're going, if it's reasonably flat, is between 20 and 25 kilometers per hour. And when it comes to the batteries, we today we just use total regular e-bike batteries, but we can use several of them. And in most cases, we're using two batteries that have 0.6 kilowatt hour capacity each, which gives us roughly 2.5 or 25 kilometers each. So when you attach two of these batteries, you have 50 kilometers of range, and for most routes this is more than enough. And then you're usually back at the hub and can switch batteries on the bike to fully charged batteries again.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think we'll cut questions for this segment here and move into the last segment of the presentation, which is maybe the most educational one, and it comes to the sustainability aspects of this. Why should you use this type of vehicle instead of an electric vehicle? And then before I just show this, I can just mention that there's been some other piece of news just the last couple of weeks, where we had the electric car company Polestar coming out with an article saying that we need to come clean about the environmental impacts of electric vehicles, because we don't want another Volkswagen scandal, a new diesel scandal, where it will, in a few years, there will be a big debate. Oh, maybe electric cars weren't so clean after all. So we need to be transparent and say today electric cars do have an environmental impact. And for example, they said that producing a Polestar 2 electric car that emits 23 tons of CO2 compared to a regular fossil fuel Volvo of the same size, then that one emits 13 tons of CO2. So you emit 10 tons more CO2 when producing an electric vehicle. And in the long run, the total emissions are usually, depending on the electricity mix, but but usually lower for the electric car. But we should know that when you saw on the first picture I showed, we need extremely big improvements, extremely big mitigations, and just being slightly better than a fossil fuel car is not enough. We need at least a factor 10 improvements. And that is maybe a bit of background to this section we'll come to now. So we got some funding from the Swedish Energy Agency to do energy comparisons, where we did the exact same deliveries on the same routes with a small electric van, which was a Nissan e-NV200, and we compared it to our cargo bike. And we found out that the small electric van required 15 times more electricity than our cargo bike. Now, some people would argue that this doesn't really matter because electricity is clean, electricity is zero emission, but we beg to differ there, because we can see from, if we look from a more of a systems perspective and look at the from a European perspective, we have a lot of fossil powered electricity generation in Europe, and we do have electricity transfer between countries. We have a market for electricity in Europe. It's not perfect, but it's getting there. And this means that if we can save one of our relatively clean kilowatt hours in Sweden based on hydropower and nuclear, we can help another country to use less of their dirtier electricity mix. So if we are energy efficient, then we can more rapidly transform the European electricity production to make it cleaner. So the German Energiewende, it has a focus on renewable energy, but it also has a huge focus on energy efficiency. And if you see here, when you compare an electric cargo bike to an electric van, you have a huge difference in energy efficiency. And this is the main motivator from a climate perspective, why you should choose a light vehicle when possible. Of course, an e-cargo bike can't transport all goods, but there is a lot of small goods being transported in the city, and on these occasions, we should really try to switch to a lighter vehicle. When it comes to resources, there's also a big difference. The weight, it's also factor 13 difference, and any material that you produce will have an environmental impact. You're using resources, so you can have environmental impacts from mining, and you also always need energy to produce materials, and this will cause, for example, CO2 emissions. So just the resources used, the amount of material will have a different impact on the environment. And here we see that we have a factor 13 if we just compare the weights of the different vehicles, our vehicle and a small electric van. We also know that batteries today, they have a huge environmental impact, and here the difference is even bigger. We have a 33-time difference if we compare our bike with the Nissan e-NV200. The Nissan has a 40 kilowatt hour battery pack, and we are using 1.2 kilowatt hour. That's all we need for the bike. So it's a huge difference in the amount of resources needed, especially when it comes to batteries. That has the highest environmental impact of the materials used in a vehicle. And another important aspect is just the city. So what happens if we pour a lot of vans in the city, electric or not, or e-cargo bikes? Well, of course, everything will have some negative impact, but a small e-cargo bike adapted for the human scale has a totally different impact than a highway going vehicle. So we free up space. We are reducing the barriers for pedestrians and cyclists. If you have a lot of motor traffic, you create barriers where you can't cross the street where you want. And we are reducing noise, because even with an electric vehicle, if you're above like 40 kilometers per hour, then it's just the tire to road noise that is dominating. The social interaction we already talked about, that you replace vehicles with faces in the city. You reduce the potential deadly collision violence when you have lighter vehicles going at slower speeds. Particle emissions is a big thing in the city, and the big particles, PM10, that comes from tire, road and brake pad wear, and that we have some of it on our e-cargo bikes, but it's just a small fraction compared to the 13 times heavier vehicle. And you can also go on renewable fuels and go with diesel vans, but then you have all the on top of the PM10 emissions, you also have the nitrogen oxide emissions and the smaller particles, the 2.5 that comes from the internal combustion engine. We have none of that, of course. So yeah, and actually sometimes I get a question, why don't you just use mopeds? But I think from having ridden myself for almost 10 years, combining a desk, office job to riding 1 or 2 times a week, it's really always feel great from this. And we know since many decades that that physical activity is improving your physical health, and just these last few years we've had more and more evidence that exercise is actually improving your mental health significantly as well, both your health and the things like creativity and energy levels, mental energy. Just everything is improving when you're getting an increased blood flow through your brain. And we have evidence for this as well. And sometimes people are even referring to sitting still is that this is the cigarette of today, because it's so bad for us to sit still. So we need some light exercise, and riding these bikes, you get some light exercise, just comparable to walking. So we think we do a difference here as well, getting it's an active mobility solution we have. So to sum up, the solution we have is extremely energy and resource efficient. It makes cities more livable, and it even improves, you could argue it even improves mental and physical health. So that was my presentation. You can reach me if you have some questions, want to get in touch with me on this email address, and I'm happy to take some final questions now as well.
Well, first of all, I will like to add that other than the products mentioned, we also deliver flowers, which I personally like very much when I deliver flowers. And also I have 2 questions to add. So one is, is there any measure that when we manually push the bicycles, the cargo bikes, what is the amount of energy that we save that is coming from the battery? And the second question is, I think one of the most important part of this cargo bike is the accessibility. So we can park it very near of the delivery spot, and it is very easy to park because it requires very less space. Do you think the when we use semi-trailer, it has the same advantage, or what do you think the future? Will we see that there will be more semi-trailers or more single containers cargo bike? Yeah.
Thanks, Seik. So Seik is one of our riders in Stockholm. Thank you very much for joining. Actually, we have not measured the how much energy we are getting from the battery and how much energy we are getting from the muscle input. This is something I personally would very much like to start measuring. This is depending from rider to rider, because you can choose how much assist you want and how hard you push and how fast you go. We do have everything from 100% muscle that has actually happened in the history, that we have had riders going always above the speed where the electric motor does not help anymore. So everything from 100%, and then down to you can't have 100% motor, because then you need to pedal to put some force on the pedals, otherwise you don't get electric assist. But I think the lowest end on the range is maybe like 20% muscle power and 80% battery. That's on the other end. But I actually don't know, and I hope that with some future hardware and software developments, we will be able to actually get data on this. I guess one of the advantages we have to vans is that it's we can be faster, we can use the bike infrastructure, we can park more easily closer to the actual delivery address. And as you said, Seek, we have two versions. We have the four-wheeler and we have the semi-trailer. The semi-trailer has more cargo capacity. And the four-wheeler is a little bit more agile, as it's shorter and you don't have any trailer to think of. And yeah, we're still using both types, and both have their advantages and disadvantages. So I don't really say that we can't really see where this is going yet, but we have some developments that will impact the way you will experience both of these bikes. At least that's what I can say.
Thanks.
Hi Johan, Åsa Gabrielsson here from Fortos. I've been following your journey a little bit in the last few years. I'm just wondering now, with the new business model in Stockholm, when do you expect that pilot to be profitable? Is it already, or do you need to get a lot more volume in order for it to be profitable and be able to stay in business like that?
We are aiming to quite soon be so we're dividing up with every city that we operate, all the local operations with the local management team and everything, all the costs related to any city. That is we can be let's say reach break even quite fast on a city level, but then that all these cities need also to produce some I can't find the right word here in English, but they need to give more money to cover all the high Q cost development and all the overhead cost and administration cost as well. So we need a few more cities before we reach break even for the whole business. But it's all about this model is all about being able to scale, and I think we've found it now, and we have the possibility to really scale this now. So this looks really promising now to that we will actually reach break even, and it's happening quite fast. We're not that far away from reaching break even in Stockholm, and then as soon as we have that, then we start contributing to the main business as well.
Oh, that's great. Do you have then a few more cities in the pipeline then, and are those the cities then who want to decrease the CO2 footprint, which I assume is most cities these days? Is that how you sort of get them on the hook, or?
Well, we don't need to get a city on the hook. We just we are we're a business in a competitive market, so we need to decide where to go based on business decisions, and we will reduce CO2 from wherever we are, but mainly we go where we have the most chance to get a lot of volume. Which means today that the markets that are ripe for home delivery, for example, this is an important aspect when we choose on which city we go to next, that there are actually a lot of home deliveries, and home delivery is growing. That's one important aspect. But then we have, like, I think 40 other factors that we are looking at when we are choosing which city to go to next.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, Sönke Behrens here, IVL, Swedish Environmental Research Institute. Yeah, thanks, Johan. Great presentation. I wonder actually what you think or what your experience are about the problem of crowded bike lanes in the cities. We know that there have been a lot of more bicycles, e-bikes, e-scooters, and now also cargo bikes. Is it a problem already, and how do you feel will this develop in the future if we have more and more cargo bikes out there? So that would be my question, because I've heard, I mean, the obvious solution would be to take away car lanes and to make them into really good bike lanes, but this is a policy issue. What is your experience about bike infrastructure in the cities you operate?
Yeah, so right now we're actually only operating with our own business model in Stockholm. Of course, we've had our bikes are in many different cities, and of course you benefit from a good bike infrastructure. The leading country in the world is the Netherlands. There's no comparison. Even Denmark can't compare to the Dutch bike infrastructure. And if you have that, of course, that makes a big that's the better bike infrastructure, the better advantage you have. For Stockholm right now, we are as we are only doing home delivery right now. We are only riding nighttime, and we've also had the Corona situation with less traffic, and there's been I think the only thing that we have experienced in Stockholm since March is at Slussen, which is a disaster when we need to go, for example, from Östermalm to Södermalm. The Slussen solution for bikes is just a disaster. Enormous bike queues at red lights. So you need to wait for like 10 minutes to just at the red light to go across Slussen. Oh. And then you have sometimes you have traffic congestion, because we are in Stockholm. You have bike lanes, but you're quite often also ride on the regular streets. And sometimes we have on the events, or sometimes we don't know why, it's just a lot of congestion in the city, and that has happened a couple of times. But then that's not really about congestion on the bike lane. So I think in Stockholm, we've had so far you can't say that we have really had a problem, except for the Slussen, and that's not us causing that problem. It's just bad planning from the city. As I said, the bikes are big, but they're still narrow enough, so we're using more or less the same width as a regular bike. And I also would like to compare to Copenhagen, even if they don't have as great bike infrastructure as the Netherlands. They have a lot of cargo bikes, a huge amount of family cargo bikes, which are wider than our bike. And no one is saying that is a problem in Copenhagen. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, any other final questions? I'll see what time we have. Yeah, we're starting to near the end of the planned time.
Then one quick question, maybe, Sönke here again. The city hub in Stockholm, which you have, do you pay the rent yourself, or is it a subsidy from the city?
No subsidy from the city.
No subsidy as well.
Pure commercial.
Oh, great.
And we have several hubs, not only one.
Okay. Good, thanks.